I want to give you the tactics for where you are now and the deeper understanding of where you can go. But I also want to paint the picture of, okay, in the future, maybe this is what it looks like for you. I think you having something out there, some piece of content on YouTube, even if it's subpar, is better than not having any. What is going on, my podcast people? Welcome to episode number 1 of Podcast Growth University. I hope you enjoyed the trailer and it gave you a little bit of extra context of what this show is going to offer you. Today, for episode number 1, we're going to start with some fundamentals. And today's episode is 5 things every podcaster needs to know. The reason I am talking about fundamentals and the reason I named it this is because I have been on many different podcasts, and my co-host Alan and I have done many guest interviews where we have people on, but even some of the top tier people or people who have been on many different podcasts, they have some missing pieces with their technology or their approach. So today we're going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about programs for audio and video. We're going to talk about whether or not YouTube is actually worth it, scheduling your episodes, and I'm going to explain to you the breakdown of your time input versus your content output. So again, my goal in these episodes is going to be 10 to 20 minutes, and I'm going to try to stack as much value as humanly possible. Just because everybody does something does not mean it is right. So Alan and I, again, my co-host, Alan is the co-host of Next Level University. And if you didn't listen to the trailer, we have, as of the time of the beginning of this podcast, we have 950 episodes, and it's a top 100 podcast. We've been heard in 125 plus countries. So that is our full-time job. That is our full-time gig. I'm very blessed to be able to do this every single day. And that's why I wanted to start a podcast about podcasts, because I know a lot of people want to get there. So we have interviewed a lot of people. And a lot of the guests, we have gotten to the point where when they log in and they start talking, we can kind of tell, number one, whether or not they're using a microphone. That is pretty obvious pretty quickly. But we're at the point now where we can tell what kind of microphone they're using. And this is what we say often. Hey, are you using a Blue Yeti? Hey, are you using the Snowball? We often say that. And here's why. A lot of people use those microphones because they see a lot of other people using those microphones. And from my perspective, in my opinion, those are not the best starters. They just aren't. I think what you should get, and this is what we use for the first, 600, 700 episodes. I actually have it behind me. So this is also on YouTube for those who want to watch this. This is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100, okay? Now, this is what we use. This is what I always recommend to my clients, and there's many reasons behind that. Number one, you can plug it directly into your laptop via a USB cable. So when you order this microphone, it comes with all the wiring you need to directly connect it from the microphone to your laptop. And when you do that, you can choose it in Zoom, you can choose it in whatever program you're using, whether that's audio or video. Here's the second piece. This microphone is $99, which is pretty similar compared to the other pricings for the starter microphones. And I am yet to find anything that has quality as good as this microphone for that price point. So the reason I started this by saying just because everyone is doing it doesn't mean it's right is because a lot of people see what other people are using and they assume, well, that must be the best. And we've had people say that. We say, hey, can you just bring that microphone a little bit closer? That microphone is made for rooms that have soundproofing and you're in a pretty echoey room. And they'll say, oh, I just saw other people using this. That's why I got it. I always recommend this mic. So when I'm talking about gear, that is the first thing I want to talk about today. This is the microphone I would recommend, the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. You can plug it in directly to your laptop with USB, but it also has an XLR input on the bottom, which means you can plug it into a mixer or a Zoom audio recorder, something like that. Again, we'll talk more about that later in this series or later in this podcast. Right now, we just want to start with the fundamentals. Now, a lot of people ask about cameras. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a very nice camera. You don't need this when you're starting out, right? You don't need to get a separate camera and get a bunch of other equipment. Couple things you can do. One, nowadays laptops have really, really good webcams, way better than they did when I first started this 5 years ago. Use the webcam on your laptop and just choose your microphone as the audio input. That's a great option. The second thing you can do is you can go buy some sort of external webcam that is, I don't know, $30, $50, $60, $100. You don't have to go out and get something crazy. At the beginning, it's all about getting momentum. And I know a lot of people, they want to start the podcast, but there's a bunch of barriers to entry. They don't know what mic, they don't know what camera, they don't know how to record. We're going to talk about that next. All you need to start, and a lot of people are very surprised when I say this, all you need to start is a USB microphone and some form of video. That's it. And you don't need video, but I will recommend it, and we'll talk more about that. Now, the reason I think every podcaster needs to hear this, you might have 40 episodes, you might have 100 episodes. If you're not using quality equipment, you're not getting the reach that you could, you're not having the impact that you could, and you're not building your credibility like you could. When you tune into a podcast, if you're a podcast consumer, the first thing you check for is audio quality. And if your audio quality just isn't there, you're going to lose people. They're not going to come back. They're going to go find something that sounds better. It might not even be as valuable. So I really want you to check in with that. Maybe you're 40 episodes in. Maybe you're 50 episodes in. I've been on episodes that have 100, or I've been on podcasts that have 100 episodes and they don't even use a microphone. Now that's a huge mistake, in my opinion. Okay, so from the gear perspective, USB microphone, it's called the ATR 2100. That is what I would recommend. I believe it's $99 on Amazon. I can link it in the show notes for you guys. Now, any webcam. I don't have a specific webcam that I would recommend. I bought an external webcam before I started using this camera, and it was during the pandemic, so everything was high priced, so I don't even know what I have. It was okay. It was an okay webcam. Again, you're not going to have crystal clear video. That's not the goal. Realistically, most of your listens are going to come from audio anyway. So as a podcaster, I would always recommend optimizing for audio. That's what we've done with Next Level University. I think we have 90-something thousand views on YouTube, but we have 400 and something thousand downloads, right? So you can see that we have way more audio listeners than we do video. So that is what I would say about gear. And again, this is very basic, very fundamental, and we'll get more into depth throughout this podcast, but it's my goal just to make sure that you're starting with a solid foundation, a solid, reliable foundation. All right, my second point here, programs. So one of the biggest things that people get confused about is they say, how do I record my podcast? So say I buy this microphone and I have a webcam, and then I want to do a podcast. I want to do an audio podcast and a video podcast. What do I do? This is the easiest way to start. You start with Zoom. You open up Zoom. You record yourself video. You make sure that in the bottom left-hand corner where it says microphone, you choose USB microphone or whatever microphone you're using, and you just hit record. And there's your podcast episode. There's your podcast episode. Now, if you're watching this, I am recording this on StreamYard. StreamYard just has way better video. It also takes a much stronger internet connection, oftentimes wired, and it's $50 a month versus Zoom, which I think is $17 or $18 a month. So if you're trying to stay in budget, I would go with Zoom. If you're somebody who has a little extra money that you want to spend, I would go for StreamYard. Never had any issues. Customer service is great. And again, the video quality is much better than Zoom and almost every other platform. So that is what I would say about how to actually record it. Now, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. There's Riverside. There's a bunch of different platforms. Find a platform that you like and go there. And that's fine. I'm not trying to sell you on a certain one or a particular one. I'm not making any money off any of these platforms or anything like that. But again, really think about this. In the beginning, I want you to do whatever is going to get you started. We've done many, many episodes on Zoom before we knew about StreamYard. And that's fine. That's okay. You will always have an opportunity to level up. It's more important to me that you start and build momentum than have a perfect product. You're never going to have a perfect product. We are making mistakes every single episode. I will make mistakes in this episode. It's par for the course. It's par for the course. So when it comes to other programs, now if you really want to do something, you can kind of do this, but it complicates things if you don't know how to audio edit and video edit. What you can do is you can download, whether it's Audacity, Adobe Audition, GarageBand, whatever it is, you can use that for your audio, and you can use StreamYard, Zoom, whatever video platform you want to record your video, and then you can always sync those in post-production. So what I'm doing right now is I'm recording audio and video on StreamYard, but I'm also recording my audio in Audacity. After I export all of these files, we have an amazing team. I'll send them off, and those files will get shifted where we're going to take the Audacity audio and we're going to put it on the StreamYard video, and it'll make the video sound much better, and it'll make the audio sound much better. So that's something you can do. Again, pretty complicated if you don't know how to audio edit or video edit yet. So I would say for most people, if you're just beginning, start with Zoom. If you have a low budget, get a Zoom subscription, get the microphone that I talked about, maybe upgrade your webcam if you need to, plug in your microphone, make sure it's chosen as the microphone, hit record, and you're off to the races. You have your first episode, okay? I would start with that. And then afterwards, you can download the audio and the video, and you can do all of that stuff. You can put it up to YouTube. So in the beginning, it's about starting small. It's about starting small and making it as simple as humanly possible. That is what I would recommend. Now, if you don't want to do video, download Audition, GarageBand, or Audacity. That'll make your life a lot easier. I always recommend doing video. And here's why. A lot of people will say, Kev, I don't want to do video. It's not worth the extra work. I don't know how to edit it. There's a bunch of different reasons why, and I very much understand. But here's my thought behind that. 2.5, 3 years ago, Alan and I, again, the co-host of Next Level University, we had the opportunity to interview an author by the name of Bronnie Ware. Bronnie Ware wrote the book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And when we recorded that episode with her and we interviewed her, she didn't have a lot of content on YouTube. So this is all the YouTube video is. It's literally a still shot from an iPhone of Alan and I in our old studio. And we synced the audio from Bronnie's side into that video. So it's just us asking the questions and then her answering them, but there's no video of her. We put it up on YouTube because we said, well, we did it with video. We might as well put it up. That video has, I don't know, I haven't looked in a minute, but 5,000 or 6,000 views. Here's the reason. Bronnie Ware does not have a ton of content on YouTube. So it was at the point where if you searched Bronnie Ware, our video was on the first page to come up. So we got a lot of crossover. So that's 5,000, 6,000 potential listens that we never would have gotten. And it's even deeper than that. Not only is it 5,000 or 6,000 downloads or listens that we never would have got, but out of those 5,000 or 6,000, I don't know how many others came and stayed and continue listening to the podcast to this day. So my thought is this. You're already doing it. You're already recording the episode. You might as well get audio and you might as well get video. And worst case, just throw up the raw video on YouTube. You don't have to do a bunch of edits because you never know. You might get 5 downloads or 5 views. You might get 10 views. You never know what you're going to get. And realistically, if it doesn't take you that much time to do it, why isn't it worth it? If you're already in the studio and you're doing the recording, you might as well get as much content as possible. You might as well get the highest quality possible. You might as well give yourself as many opportunities as possible to get new eyes. So I always recommend YouTube. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care what your studio looks like. I don't care how good your camera is. I think you having something out there, some piece of content on YouTube, even if it's subpar, is better than not having any. That is my opinion. Again, we have a good amount of views on YouTube, and a lot of our clients do too. Now, they're not breaking the record, and they're not breaking the bank, and they're not having tons and tons and tons, but you never know. You never know what kind of crossover you may get. So I would always recommend audio and video. I would say always optimize for audio, though. It's more important to me to have a good microphone than a good camera if you're just starting out, or if you're somebody who is looking to up-level their equipment. I always choose audio over video. But, and we're going to talk about this in a couple of minutes, the video is important, and I'll walk you through why doing YouTube actually makes sense for most people. But before that, the fourth thing I wanted to touch on is scheduling. So I have been on a lot of shows over the course of our 5-year career, a lot more lately, because when you're up in the 500, 600, 700, 800, 900 episode range, you get a lot of people that reach out, and they want to say, hey, how did you get to that point? Tell me about your story. So you get a lot more opportunity. But this is what I'll say. It has been interesting to me to see how many podcast hosts are just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, where I'll get invited on their podcast and they might not show up to the recording, and then they'll message me and say, oh my goodness, I completely forgot, whatever it may be. You have to make sure that you're scheduling your episodes, not just guest episodes, because for most people, they start off with solo episodes, right? So what does your scheduling look like for your episodes? And here's what I mean by that. If your episode drops Friday at noon, say that's when your episode drops every week, you should record your episodes on the previous Friday. So you're always a week ahead, always. And from my perspective, in my opinion, you should have a time blocked off in your calendar. If you work a 9 to 5, maybe it's 7 p.m. 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. every Friday, I record blank. I record my podcast. Maybe the weekend works better. Maybe you have a more flexible schedule. You have to put it in the calendar, and it has to be a non-negotiable. It has to be. I'm going to talk about consistency and how to remain consistent in the second episode, because I believe that is the most important thing after the fundamentals of what you actually need. But if you're not living by a schedule, you're going to probably miss. It's easy to miss. One thing I always say, you have to treat your podcast like a business, because at the end of the day, it is. It is a business. And if you're not there for your customers, your listeners, your potential clients, the people you're trying to help, they're going to go somewhere else. So we always talk about 1% improvements on our show, Next Level University. This is a huge 1% improvement. If you don't have a day of the week and a time scheduled every single week to record your episodes, that is a huge 1% improvement. And it's got to be a non-negotiable. You have to treat it like business. You have to treat it like something that really, really matters, because when you start missing episodes, that's when things go off the rails. We are very, very focused on consistency. We do 7 episodes a week for our other show, and we don't ever miss, because we realize that your favorite TV show is on the same channel at the same time on the same night of the week. And that's how you know where to go, right? They build up trust. And when you have trust, you're more likely to tune in. So if you're not scheduling, that is a huge 1% improvement. That is a huge opportunity for growth. Same time every week. Put it on your calendar, block it off, and don't let anything take that over. And that will help you tremendously, I promise. And this I'll add on. I said this, but I want to go deeper into this. It usually works really well for people if you're doing 1 episode a week, which I always recommend people start with, to record 1 week prior. So if you're dropping it Friday, record on Friday and then drop it the next Friday and then rinse and repeat. So in theory, you'll always be 1 week ahead, and you'll have a lot of room in case something goes wrong. You can be flexible and say, oh my goodness, something came up Friday. All right, I'm going to do it Saturday, or whatever it may be. You'll have enough time in case something goes wrong, because life happens and things do tend to go wrong. Okay, my last point for episode 1, because again, I'm trying to keep it under 20 minutes, but we're coming up on it quick. This is my thought process here and why I think YouTube is always worth doing. My goal, my thought process, and my advice is always based on this. How many pieces of output can we get out of one episode input? So for instance, this episode that I'm recording today, it's going to be 25 minutes if I can button it up here. So 25 minutes will get me an audio episode that goes out on Apple Podcasts and all of the podcast platforms. It'll go to YouTube. It'll also be broken into at least one teaser clip, probably more. And when I say a teaser clip, I mean 30 seconds to a minute of the most valuable piece of this episode. It'll get used as a photograph on my Instagram story. And if I had an email list with this podcast, it would go out maybe as a weekly email or a blog. So think about this. You sit down to record an episode. What if out of the 20 minutes you record, you could get 5, 6, 7, 8 outputs out of one block of time? That is why I always say that YouTube is worth it, because this is what you want to do. You want to record your episode, audio, and put it on Apple Podcasts and all that. You want to record your episode with video and put it on YouTube, and then you want to break it up into micro content. So if you're going to need the video to post on your social media platforms anyway, you might as well just throw it up on YouTube. Now, we're not going to go into audio editing and video editing because that is a whole thing and it takes time. And honestly, it's very hard to walk somebody through it, especially when I'm not a professional video editor or audio editor. I know plenty, but I've learned on my own accord. So a lot of what I do probably isn't correct. And I don't want to mislead you or misguide you when it comes to that. But this is just a fundamental understanding. Maybe you're just starting and you're saying, all right, Kev, I understand what you're saying, but I don't have the budget to hire an audio editor, video editor. Okay, maybe you're not there yet. But what I want to do in this podcast, throughout the entirety of this podcast, not just this episode, in Podcast Growth University, I want to give you the tactics for where you are now and the deeper understanding of where you can go. But I also want to paint the picture of, okay, in the future, maybe this is what it looks like for you. Maybe you have somebody that you found on Fiverr who does the audio editing and the video editing that frees you up to do other things or to get better guests or to record more episodes, whatever it may be. My goal is always to treat the podcast like a business, because when you treat it like a business, it grows, right? And that's the main focus here at Podcast Growth University, to grow your show, to scale your show, to monetize your show, to become a better podcaster overall. I think that's what we all want, and really define your own version of success. Maybe you don't want to be a full-time podcaster. Maybe you do. Either way, I'm going to try to add value to your life. So really think about it from that frame, okay? You're going to the grocery store and the post office is right next door and the gym is right next door. So you wake up, you go to the gym, you swing by the post office, and then you hit the grocery store on the way home. I believe podcasting is very similar. Out of that one input, you leaving, you get 3 outputs. You get the grocery store, the gym, and the mailbox or the post office. That is what I'm thinking. How many pieces of content, how many pieces of impact can I get out of 20 minutes of my time, 30 minutes of my time, whatever it may be? Content really, really is super important. So make sure you're utilizing your social media platforms and building relationships with your listeners. We'll go into that in another episode, but we're coming up against it here, and I want to make sure I respect your time. So I appreciate you joining me here, and this is what I'll tell you in this first episode, this first of many episodes, is understand that a lot is possible when it comes to podcasting, and maybe you're surrounded by people who don't believe in you or are telling you you're crazy for starting a show, whatever it may be. I get that a lot in the beginning, so I very much understand, but now we do this for a living. We have a multiple 6-figure business, 500,000 downloads. We've been listened to in 125 plus countries, and this is my full-time job, right? I get to do this every single day. We have clients, and it's wonderful. So there is a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of possibility for you as a podcaster, but you got to make sure you're working on the fundamentals, and you got to make sure you're focused on growth always. There's always an opportunity to grow. I will listen back to this episode, and I already know there's many opportunities that I could have done better. Again, I'm not going to edit it out because I pride myself on being authentic, and you don't get better if you don't focus on the mistakes. So that is another piece of content or another piece of advice that I would give to you. If you have any questions, if I didn't answer something, if you have a deeper question, please, please, please reach out to me. I am at NeverQuitKid on Instagram. Send me an audio, send me a video. I promise I'll get back to you. I just want to help you as much as I can. That is my goal. I love podcasting. I love podcasters. For our next episode, for episode number 2, we are going to talk about the importance of consistency and how to be more consistent. When it comes to podcasting, you can set yourself apart by being consistent. The stat I read recently, and I don't know how much of a fact this was, I think this was taken from smaller numbers and they just multiplied it, but they said out of the, at this point, probably 2.5 million podcasts that have been started, an estimated 75% of them are no longer in production. Why? Because those people could not be consistent. Maybe they couldn't find their audience, which is something we'll talk about in a future episode. But episode number 2 is going to be focused on consistency. And I believe that is the most important thing. With consistency, almost anything is possible. Without it, almost nothing is. And that is one of the things that we are really good at. And I want to help you with that. Consistency is the key to your success. A big shout out, as always, to Next Level Podcast Solutions, who is the sponsor of this show. I am the creator of Next Level Podcast Solutions. If you want to grow, scale, monetize your show, if you don't want to do the audio editing, you don't want to do the video editing, you don't know where to start, we are there to help. We help busy CEOs and entrepreneurs with their podcasts. Right now, we do 20 shows. We completely produce them. We do all the audio editing. We do the video editing, show notes, teaser clips, everything. If you aren't at that place yet and you just want some advice, I am happy to offer a free call to any listener of the show. So please just DM me and say, hey, I'd love to hop on the phone with you. I'll send you my Zoom link and I will add as much value as I can. That is my goal. As always, I appreciate you all for tuning in. I love podcasting. I love podcasters. My podcast people, I will talk to you on the next episode. Have a wonderful day.